Got money on my mind, I swear I'm gonna win, even if it kills me. I got money on my mind, the only way I'm gonna rest is if these motherfuckers kill me. I got money on my mind.
Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're just going to be going over the E46. We're going to be doing the E46 reliability video of 2019. It's another video that I saw hasn't been done, and obviously people are still buying these cars more than ever now because they're becoming classics and they're becoming rare. So I thought what we'll do is we'll just go over this car and we'll see if it's still reliable in 2019. We'll go over all the common problems or what these problems are going to have if you go and purchase one in 2019, all the problems these cars are going to suffer from or haven't been done. You know, majority of the work should have been done if it's on high mileage, but if they're on low mileage, the jobs are going to be coming up and you guys need to know what to do and how to fix them. Okay guys, so as you can see here, this is the E46, which is my Mrs. one, as I always tell you guys. It's a bit dirty because it hasn't been washed, but as you'll see here, this is an M Sport 1 and we're going to go over the common problems of this car. As you'll see, it's got the MV2 alloys, which is correct for this year on an M Sport, because any before, I believe 03 had the MV1s, which are more straighter wheels. As you'll see, it's also got the M Sport bumpers, which are still to this day quite expensive for E46. You know, the fog lights like to crack on these and the casings usually go missing when people change the bulb and never pull it back. It flaps out when you go over a bump, so be careful of that. As you can see, that one's all hazed up. It's a very common problem on the E39 and E46, as I told you on the E60 video. They definitely like to crack, especially on the E46 and E39. The headlights itself, you can get ones with the xenons and the projector headlights, but this one doesn't have it. Some models do. It's mostly convertibles that come with that already manufactured, or the coupes, they come with the projector headlights. You do get them though, some of them, if they're individuals with the projector lights. The next one, mirror covers. Now these like to get battered around. As you know, they're very stiff on E46 and also very small. They like to get whacked around a lot because people leave them out like this and end up cracking. Sometimes you end up finding them gone. Sometimes you even find that they're rusted up here or rusted all around there and faded, but this one isn't, which is a good sign. Doors, make sure you check all the doors on these, because this is one thing a lot of people ain't aware of. These are very stiff to handles. The handle carrier itself, as you'll see, you know, this one's been used a lot because it's quite loose, but this one is quite stiff still. It feels stiff. Like I say, you want to check all around the arches, obviously all around here as well. Make sure there's no rust anywhere. Like you can see, this one's starting to come through, so it needs to be treated, and I need to clear it up before it does go any further. But as you'll see, you just want to check tires as well, wheels on these, because wheels are crucial. Brakes are a pitter on this car, on the E46. Luckily the handbrake and everything was just done before I got it. It's adjusted perfectly, so I don't need to touch that. Brakes are going to need doing on this because the guys just changed the pads but not the disc, so we need to get them changed. If your car's got the rear M Sport bumper, make sure it hasn't been hit up the arse, and make sure the parking sensors are working. They don't usually go on the E46s, they usually work perfectly. I've not ever had them fail on the E46. If they do a front and rear, which is very unlikely, but some may, only ever known them to come with a rear, make sure you check both of them, as I always tell you. Make sure, I don't know if a lot of you are aware, in the exhaust here, it has an exhaust flap that you need to be careful that ain't stuck closed. Make sure that ain't stuck closed or tied open, because a lot of people like to tie it open to get the better sound. Make sure the diffuser's there on the body if you get an M Sport 1 also. They come with a spoiler, so make sure that's obviously there as well. As you'll see, again, on the wheel side of things, these wheels are MV2s. They come with a car, they've been sprayed black. They are quite newly refurbished. Again, check all the wings because they will suffer from rust. Check all the jacking points underneath as well for rust and corrosion. Also the subframe, something I'm going to mention now, the rear subframe, these are the common problem, but the 03s didn't suffer with it, so make sure you check there as well. As I said, you just want to check your side repeaters, make sure they're not out. As I told you, they're MOT failure. Wipers, trimmings on the seals itself all up here, because these need to get perished and need replacing. Check all the drainers as well here, make sure they're all in place. This is what people usually take out. A lot of people take them out and put roof racks, especially if they're going away. As I said to you, this one's got a little dent in the roof. I don't know if you can see there. It's common. As I said to you, things drop on it and it happens. If it's got a shark fin, because this one's got Bluetooth, make sure that's all fully functional and sealed properly still. You know, just come around the car and check everything, that there's no rust on the boot lot. As you know, 39 like suffer with it. It can happen on the E46 also. Make sure the petrol cap opens fully and perfectly. Make sure all the trims are all in place and this car hasn't been hit. Make sure there's no filler around all the wings where it's been involved in an accident. and just make sure of the normal common issues on this car, make sure they're all addressed. Like I say, stone chips is going to be normal if it's been used on motorway, which this one hasn't. It doesn't have many stone chips anywhere on the car. We have been using it on the motorway, so it is quite dirty and hasn't been cleaned. As you'll see here, this one's got the washer jets, but no need because we don't have xenons. You just want to be checking everything on this car body wise. This one's quite a good example, so there's not much I can really show you what the common problems are on this one, because this one's a clean example compared to others, as many people are already aware. So there's not much I can really address on this car Shane did. This is common because this one's a very clean example. Moving to the interior side, if you go into the interior, make sure all the handles work as I showed you, all the seats ain't warm. Make sure all the speakers work. No harm and common, they like to fail, they're quite basic. Make sure all the seats recline, because on these models, what they like to do is they like to snap the cable underneath and the chair don't go back, or it don't go up, or it triggers the airbag light as well from underneath the seat. It's a common problem, everyone knows about it. So guys, I was showing you from the wrong angle, so let's show you now from this angle. So as you'll see, when you get in this car, you just want to make sure there's no rips, nothing to the levers, because as you know, this car's quite old and it's probably now way overdue. But as you'll see here, the seats are actually quite immaculate for the age of this car. This shows you when BMW built their levers in a year where they cared about their engineering. And you also just want to make sure, like I said, all the window switches work, stalks work, controls work. There's no lights coming on the dash, as you'll see here, which there's nothing on at all. You know, make sure the P's coming on. If it's got Harman Kardon system, make sure the light's coming on and check that. Bluetooth, make sure the cradle's there and everything. Make sure the handbrake's fully up and holding properly, which I checked when I first bought this. Make sure it goes into gear, make sure it's starting well, make sure your heaters work. Heater and aircon, make sure it both works, because obviously, as you guys know, the climate control panel can be faulty for the aircon. It also can be the aircon compressor, your AC pressure switch, it could be many things. Make sure your lights work as well. Make sure the door cards ain't hanging off, because people like to take these off and not bolt them back properly and not buy new rivet clips to bolt them back on. So make sure they're all fully working. Make sure your electric mirrors are fully working as well. Just make sure everything works on the car. Make sure every door card is fully functional, glued on properly and stuck on where people haven't been playing about of it. Make sure, as you see, the Harman Kardon system has a lot of speakers in the rear. It also has 2 speakers in the door cards here. It has small little tweeters up here as well. It's quite a big system on the car. It's got the subs in the rear built in. You just want to make sure everything works in this car, stalk wise, automatic wipers, automatic lights. Make sure it all works, because it's a common problem. If it fails, it's not expensive to replace, just it's a bargaining tool for later on. You also want to make sure that this airbag has been recalled. This is a recall on E46s. A lot of people still don't know about it, but this recall is being replaced. The same with the E39 as well. The airbag, this has just been replaced. That's why it looks so brand new. This has just been replaced by BMW. This is a safety recall and has to be done, because apparently the airbag has little fragments that can hurt your face if it was to go off. So they changed the airbag over. So just make sure that's been changed. You will always be able to tell, because at this time of year it should be brand spanking new like that. If it hasn't, you'll see it all quite faded and quite shiny. Also make sure your door locks go down perfectly, because it's another thing, the door lock's not working, not going down. So make sure that button works. Also make sure the glove box is working. If you've got the torch in there, make sure the torch is inside. Make sure the radio works, make sure everything works. Now, another thing I'm going to show you is, you'll know if your car's got errors on your E46. Now, when you start the ignition up, when you go to turn the key off, like here, you'll hear a beep. If it's got errors, it will beep as you go to take the key out. Now, that's not leaving your lights on. That's because you've got errors stored in your system. It will make a loud beep, and usually it's because you've got error code stored in the combi or wherever else is stored for what module's out or what part's failing. And you'll hear a beep as you take the ignition. As you stop the ignition, as you turn the key like that, you'll hear a beep as you go to take the key out. That means errors are stored. Get your car scanned. Don't ignore it thinking it's something else. It's not something else. Errors are stored in your system. But you just want to make sure all these niggly bits are sorted and working fine. Central locking's working fine. If it doesn't work, it's probably your GM5 module. So just make sure you have it all fully working when you go and purchase the car. Like I say, I can't say I bought a bad example, because I haven't. Even though parts wasn't replaced on this, I replaced them all, made it what it is today. So it wasn't a failure or anything. It was just a very neglected car, which is tidied up now, and you know, I've got a good car for the money. But let's go on to the engine side. Okay guys, so as you're in the engine bay on these, as you know, this uses the M54 plant. Some will use the M57 for the diesel, but if it's a 3250, it'll still use the same M54 engine. Now, As you'll know, there's a lot of common problems on these because they use a lot of vacuum system on these cars, a hell of a lot. The first one being, you know, the valve cover gasket. Now this is the main common culprit of why people sell their cars here in the UK, and every single one they sell ends up saying that leaking from the camshaft cover, as they call it, not the valve cover. Now it is a common problem and it can be addressed, as you guys would have seen in my video how to do the Vanos seals. I addressed that problem on this car. We did the Vanos seals, we've done the valve cover gasket. It worked out to £100, but I got everything of it, new rings, new bolts, new everything for the whole kit from X8R on the valve cover gasket, and we replaced everything. The next thing we replaced was the water pump and thermostat on this, which cost me, I think, £70 for the two of them. And I also bought a new clutch fan and a new fan and the clutch itself, which was another £30 together. We replaced them, so everything's brand new down there. We've had no problems since, no overheating issues, no nothing since then. And like I say, that only cost me about £100 altogether, so together it's £200 just on them parts. We also replaced this, which is a coolant expansion tank. As you guys know, when I got the exhaust bolts done, because they like to corrode, which is another thing underneath the car. Be careful of that, because the exhaust bolts like to corrode. The expansion tank on the way back, when we got back, liked to just explode when we pulled up, so I had to quickly change that and get a new one, which I did. Common problem, I had a big crack down the side of the bottle. We replaced it, and that was that done. And now the cooling system is fully overhauled. The next one will be your disc flap. Now I haven't had to replace that on this car because thankfully the last owner did replace it and it is good. The last owner did replace the disc flap on that, so it saves me having to go ahead and replace the disc flap on this one. The other one we did go and replace was the throttle body boot, as you'll see down here, which goes to the idle control valve, because it was all split up here on the top. We replaced that, which only cost me £15 for the Bilstein one. It was split, it's a common problem, and they tried to wrap gaffer tape around it to stop it leaking air. So I replaced it with a new one. It's been perfect since. When we did take the manifold off, we end up breaking these vacuum lines, which are common, the one that goes underneath the manifold as well. We'd replace them all at once, like I did have done here. You know, this one goes to the fuel pressure regulator, so make sure you replace that one, because it will perish and it will crack and it won't come off. Even the T-piece I replaced, we replaced all that as well. We also replaced the PCV system. Now, as you'll see right here, this is the PCV system that runs down there. It runs underneath the manifold. You can do this without taking off the manifold, but I took off the manifold to be able to get better access and to see what was actually wrong with this car, as I wanted to see if there was any other problems when I took it off. Now, when I took it off, I done it, and we did everything from vacuum lines, the lot on this car, to fully overhaul everything while I was at it, which we did. It's not an easy job. It's not like the M52. As I said to you, this car requires a lot of taking things off, like the injectors need to come off, and there's a lot of different bolts that need to come off. There's a bolt that bolts the manifold down to the block itself. There's many things on this engine compared to the M52 which make this manifold a hard job to get off. Some will say it's easy, some not, but this job is a very hard job, I believe, compared to the M52. The next one you're going to want to replace is your coolant hoses. Now, as you'll see, the coolant hoses here do perish, but in England we don't really need to replace them because we don't get to extreme heats where it puts stress on the pipes itself. So that's why I haven't replaced them. But if the time come where I had to, I would. Now, they're not really expensive. They work out about £15 each itself. Very easy job just to replace, take off and put a new one on. The next one I replaced was the idler pulley, tensioner and the belts. Now, them together come up to like £50. And when we replaced them, it's because the bearing noise was coming from the idler pulley right there. It was making a loud bearing noise, so we replaced that, got that replaced, and since then everything's been perfect. You know, you can see it's all new down there. Everything's been replaced, everything's like brand new on this car. We also, I forgot to tell you the price of the PCV. The PCV was £100, so, and that was a February Bilstein one that I bought from eBay. They still sell them, there's many available. This is what I said to you about this engine, why I love this engine. It's very parts are readily available and easy to get hold of for this engine itself because there's so many. The next thing we replaced was the O-ring on the dipstick. Make sure you replace that with a Viton one, you know, because you're going to take the dipstick out from the sump to pull out the other pipe that goes onto the PCV. Make sure you replace that as well, because there's no point leaving it and reusing the old one, because it will just leak oil everywhere and it doesn't feel stiff inside. Once they're pulled out, it's better not to reuse them, which we've done on there also. We have overall quite a bit on this car. The car now drives absolutely perfect. No lights, no nothing. We also gave it xenon headlights, which you guys saw in my video as well. We put HID kit in here, which is all here, and the lighting has been perfect on the car. Another thing I can't fault, we changed the radio in this car. We've done quite a bit of things on the car, and to be fair, we've overhauled the majority of things on here to the point it won't need replacing anytime soon. This car's good for probably about another 100,000 miles. This boot right here doesn't usually fail. It's usually the intake boot that connects onto the idle control valve, as I told you. So if you are getting vacuum leaks, any kind of misfires, any kind of codes, make sure you replace them. Also to note, this one has the reinforced valve cover because it's 03, so it uses the pushing style core packs, not the bolt-in style ones. So the ignition coils like to fail a lot more than the bolt down ones. Don't know why that is. I think they up the voltage on this engine, increase the voltage for them coils, and that's why they fail a lot more to increase the fire rate. I have also changed the spark plugs. All the ignition coils I haven't had to change, but the spark plugs were £40. So all in, I've spent about a good over £550 just on this car alone, just to get it up to where it is now. But was it worth it? Of course it was worth it. The car drives absolutely unbelievable now. We've overhauled the whole engine, and if you do buy one, you'll be very, very lucky if you find one with all this work already done, because these cars do need it done, and if it hasn't been done at some point in time, you're gonna need to do it. And you know, if you do find one with it all done, buy it immediately, because the job for the manifold itself is quite hard. So if someone's paid someone to do that, that's just one expense done with. If the water pump and thermostat ain't been replaced, as you guys probably would have seen in my previous videos, it had the original BMW parts. It's something you could easily replace. It's very easy to get to, and not hard to do on this car at all. But if it ain't been replaced, I would advise you to go and get it replaced immediately, because it's crucial for this car. Any overheating, as you guys know, will cause the threads to rip out the block on these. They'll pull themselves out, and that'll be your engine finish. So it's best advised to get that done before the engine overheats. There is a lot more on this car we could do, but I don't feel like it's needed at the moment, because the car drives perfect and we don't need to be touching it while it's perfect still. But as I say, guys, is this car still reliable? Of course it is. Parts are cheaper. £500 just on this car to get this car overhauled is the price of what a water pump, thermostat and van solenoids cost you on an M52. For 2 parts, you can overhaul the whole engine on this car. This car is a real driver's car. The feels planted to the road. It doesn't feel like the M52, because the M52 uses hydro steering, so this one uses power steering. So they're both totally different, but this one feels a lot more planted to the road. I do miss driving my E60. When I drive my E60, you could tell the difference, and it just feels a lot more better engine, more punchier engine. But this in turns, I like the sound it makes. I like the handling on the roads. You just can't beat the feel of this. This is why it's always good to have both, so you get the enjoyment of both of them, because they're both great cars, both great engines, and you don't want to end up getting rid of one to have to sell one to get another one back again. It's easy if you've got them both, you can just jump in one or the other, whatever one you feel like driving. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've liked this BMW E46 reliability video. As I told you as well, which I didn't show you under the car, the bolts had to be replaced on the downpipe coming from the exhaust, as they corrode. It's a very common problem. So it's another thing, check that, because it's a big job. Many of you guys probably don't know it cost me £160 to go and have that done. It's a massive job, and unless you could do it yourself and save yourself money, but it just isn't worth the hassle, because you've got to get the car up, cut the bolts off and get them out, and they usually seize on the thread. So it's better to have a shop do it and pull it up on a ramp and let them do it themselves. £160 for the amount of aggro I was going to go through doing it on the floor is worth the money. But thank you very much for watching, guys. It's BMW Dr. Dean here, and goodbye.